In the Justice category, the Gold Award will be shared by members of the Sheriff's Office 21st Century Policing Task Force. We're just going to let these guys file in, and we'll read some names here in a second. As you see on TV, when you see how many people stand up here, if now you're interested in committing a crime in the unincorporated area, it'd be a great time, because the entire Sheriff's Office is literally walking in the door right now. Or if you need a ticket, sign off. So we've got Chief Deputy Craig Wilson, Lieutenant Bob Payne, Lieutenant Steve Carney, Lieutenant Paul Ramos, Lieutenant Jim Ross, Sergeant Chris Clark, Sergeant Dee Baldwin, Sergeant Stephen Fish, Lieutenant Roy Morales, Sergeant Nick Baldridge, Deputy Mike Pruger, Deputy Jason Dunn, Deputy Billy Burnett, Deputy Bobby Paul, Deputy Socorro Luna, Deputy Steve Ryan, Deputy Dan Cruz, Deputy Dakota Clark, Deputy Jordan Brownlee, Kathy Sams, and Ruth Hong. So beginning in February of 2016 and continuing through July of last year, under the direction of the Santa Cruz County Sheriff Jim Hart, a task force comprised of sheriff's deputies and support staff met to discuss recommendations resulting from an executive order issued by President Barack Obama. The recommendations made to the president focused on how policing practices can promote effective crime reduction while building public trust. The 21st Century Policing Task Force developed responses to 79 of these recommendations, including the implementation of satisfaction surveys for those calling for assistance, a use of force panel to conduct monthly reviews of cases involving the use of force, the implementation of body cameras starting in January this year, and public access to the Sheriff's Office Public Policy Manual, just to name a few. The Sheriff's Office will continue to evaluate and implement these recommendations in order to promote effective crime reduction while building public trust, with the goal of continuing to foster strong, collaborative relationships between the Sheriff's Office and our community. The extraordinary efforts put forth by this innovative group are to be commended, and just so you know, they have been recognized nationally by the previous administration as well. And each member of this team deserves recognition for their commitment to excellence on behalf of the county and community. Congratulations.
Thank you, Supervisor. Sheriff Hart created the Sheriff's Task Force on 21st Century Policing to conduct a comprehensive internal examination of our policing model and best practices to conform those to the recommendations identified in the President's report on 21st Century Policing. The task force began its mission with a public meeting in January 2016, and it completed its work in August of last year with another public meeting. Some of the results of these efforts include body-worn cameras for deputies, emphasizing de-escalation and strategies and practices, increasing patrols at our parks and schools, and having a critical incident peer review and serious incident review board when necessary. Deputy Luna will describe what 21st Century Policing means to deputies.
Hello, I'm Deputy Luna. I have been with the Sheriff's Office as a deputy for 3 years. I'm currently assigned to patrol. So discussing a little bit of what 21st Century has meant for deputies, it has meant not changing what we do, but just building upon it. We have used technology to improve what we do through body cams. It also has through training, adapting to the changing society. But mainly what I had seen is taking it back to what classic policing is, you know, walking on foot, interacting with the community, and just that little interaction as far as to build that trust between them in a non-enforcement way.
A few of the other things that we began doing as a result of this task force is we're collecting and posting stop data and use of force data on our website. We had a 6-week Youth Academy program with 25 attendees from local high schools, and we're starting another one next month. We posted our entire policy manual online, and we've restarted crime prevention programs like home inspection safety and business safety programs. Sergeant Clark will tell us a little bit about what 21st Century Policing means to our agency.
Good morning. My name is Chris Clark. I've been with the Sheriff's Office about 10 years, and I currently work in our Internal Affairs Division, and I do our press information as well. So 21st Century Policing has deepened our relationship with the public, and it's opened a greater window into the needs of our community. Transparency, which is a huge piece of 21st Century Policing, has increased, as well as the dialogue that we have with residents of the county. Simply put, 21st century policing has allowed us to enhance the delivery of our services to those we swore to serve and protect.
Thank you, Sergeant Clark. Here's a few of the things that we continue to work toward now. Crisis intervention team training to improve our response to persons suffering from a mental health crisis in the field. Training in procedural justice and implicit bias for fair and impartial policing practices for everyone. Creating a community contact team comprised of volunteers to work directly with neighborhoods following traumatic incidents. And we're partnering with information services to share open source data with the public to increase transparency through the Police Data Initiative. Lieutenant Payne finally will give us some insight on how 21st century policing has impacted our relationships with community.
I'm Lieutenant Bob Payne. I'm in my 35th and last year with the Sheriff's Office. That's all right. What I want to talk about, just real briefly, what community means. So when I started, community meant the area where I drove my patrol car around. Okay, and that was, at the end of the day, I left that community and I'd go back the next day and work it. In the 90s, Mark Tracy, who was our sheriff, developed community policing. That's where we went into your communities and put up a community service center, established school resource officers and other programs where we got to know the community. Now, what 21st century policing, some people like to call it community policing 2.0, but the difference is that we have invited you into our community, which is a giant step, which goes to the transparency of law enforcement in our community, taking in input from a wide variety of people in the community with varying opinions. And they're not always necessarily the popular opinions, but we get to hear it and we develop those relationships overall to do a better job for the people that we serve. And I like to call it client-based policing, and you're our clients. Thank you.
Thanks, Lieutenant Payne. The task force is donating the money associated with this award to the Sheriff's Activity League. It's a nonprofit that works to engage youth in sports and healthy life choices at no cost to the participants. I'd like to acknowledge Sheriff Jim Hart for having the leadership and courage in initiating change of this level, which is always difficult in an institution. On behalf of the Sheriff's Task Force, I sincerely thank the Board of Supervisors, the County Administrative Officers, and Susan Mariello, and County Council for their support and commitment to justice. We couldn't have been able to do our jobs without them continuing to do theirs. Thank you. Thanks, Supervisor.
Congratulations.